Hello and welcome. This is for the Iron Sultanate of the Iron Wall, so the general Sultanate army. There is 3 sub-warband, the House of Wisdom, the Cabal of Assassins and the Defenders of the Iron Wall so far. For the general Sultanate army, the leader is the captain. As an elite we can have an alchemist and an assassin. And for general units we have the Azeb, the Janissaries, the Sapper, Lions of Jabir and Brazen Bull. For mercenaries, we have only the Mamluk Faris, Scripture Guardian and Combat Biologist. The Trench Dog is now technically a glory item, but I just list it here because it looks nicer to remind us for the playtest rules early version. The leader, the captain, and it gets some upgrades from the playtest. For 10 ducat it can have the Janissary Veteran and counter charge ability. And here the more significant one is the strong keyword, which makes it possible to make a siege Azil captain or a machine gun captain. So it's very mandatory to buy this upgrade. And of course it still got the +1 injury dice against tough units and still kept the negate fear and tough keyword. So the alchemist is our shooty elite unit, and it has the mastery of elements, which is giving your weapons one of the element keywords, the fire, gas or shrapnel. So in case of damaging, or if you're doing injury roll and you make an injury and not failing it miserably, you're generating double blood markers, which is very strong. And as an extra, if you want to change the element on the weapon for any reason, you need to make a risky roll, a successful one, and you change the element. Our melee elite is the assassin, and it has the temporal assassin ability, which is letting you to attack 2 enemy units within charge range. And the way it works is that you select which 2 units, you place your assassin next to the first target, or whichever you want as a first. You make the attack with 1 weapon, 1 attack. You place the assassin next to the other unit or other target, and you make another attack with the same weapon. And after that you cannot make another melee action. So technically this teleport is like replacing your melee for that turn technically. And as a bonus it has a time slip, which is letting you to gain an extra free 6-inch movement in case if your enemy is missing the attack. So it's better if your enemy is missing, and after that you can move 6-inch. As a bonus, if it's a melee movement, I mean making the move out of melee, it doesn't count as a retreat, so it's a free movement in that case. And of course it's an infiltrator unit, so you can position it wherever you want in the beginning, either immediately capturing objective or having a critical location covered or whatsoever. The Azeb is still our basic frontline unit or chaff unit, and for an extra 5 ducat it can have the skirmisher keyword, which is letting him avoid melee if you are lucky. And this can be a lot. I mean the 5 ducat if you have several Azeb, but the problem with the Azeb is that it's really bad in melee, so you want to avoid the melee with it. If you can't avoid it, it's dead. The Janissaries is our strong unit. It can be both melee or range unit. It has the counter charge ability, which is making your melee attacks better, but maybe it's not the best one because ideally you not necessarily want to make all Janissaries, for example, a melee one or go into melee, depending on what range weapons you have with it, but it's just an option, so it's up to you, either melee or ranged Janissaries. The Sapper is our limited forward deployment unit, as it can deploy up to 6-inch next to a terrain piece, and it has a shovel which can be used to fortify anywhere on the map, even without a terrain piece, and it can mine terrain pieces or demine, and this can help enemies to keep away from terrain pieces, but also it's keeping away every other type of unit, including yours, because the mine is exploding even on you. So it's a tactical unit, let's say. You need to be careful how to use it. The Lions of Jabir is our only 8-inch unit movement, so technically it's maybe the best candidate for Wind of Amulet, because it can make it 11-inch movement for 1 turn. And with successful dashes 22-inch, so it's dangerous. As an extra for 5 ducat you can buy fear keyword for it, which makes the melee very strong for it, and it's making the dash with an extra dice thanks to agile and some other roll. The artificial life is giving minus dice for the enemy for the injury roll, and the pin is letting you to literally pin enemies to the ground if they have equal or smaller base than 40mm. So if you can manage to catch, let's say, a single model somewhere, you can keep it on the ground, for example. So it can be good in some other ways as well to use this unit. And the bull is our big guy, let's say. It has the fear, strong and tough keyword. It's better in melee with the +2 dice. It has the artificial life as well and trample action, and the trample is a bonus melee attack which is ignoring armor, which can be very good, and it can be used with only with heavy weapons and the Marit shovel, so it's kind of limited what kind of weapons you can give it to, but it can be very terrifying on the battlefield. So it's a very expensive unit, but if you have it and the enemy managed to not kill it and you manage to promote it, it can be a very good tool in your hand in the next games for the campaign. So try to keep it alive. As for ranged weapons, probably the Sultanate armor is the most limited compared to the other factions. And as a special ones we have the Alia Bozan, Flame Cannon, Jezil, Murad Bombard and Siege Jezil. It's a difficult position because Sultanate has not the worst shooting, but the least variety in the weapons, ranged weapons. For grenades we have the frag grenade and incendiary grenade, which can be used only by the alchemist. For melee weapons, other than the usual, we have the assassin dagger, the halberd gun and the titan Zulfikar. Again, not a big variety. As an armor we have the alchemist armor as an extra, but limit 1. For shields, only trench shield. And within equipment we have the alchemist ammunition or alchemical ammunition, cloak of alamut, Marit shovel, tech wimbird and wind amulet as a special one. And going into a little bit of, let's say, details, the alchemical ammunition for 3 ducat, I think it's a mandatory one for every weapon you can use it with, as it gives you +1 dice for the ranged roll. I think it's absolute mandatory. The alchemist armor is upgraded reinforced armor technically, giving you the same -2 modifier for injury roll, and also negate fire and negate gas keyword. And other than that, it gives -1 injury dice against attacks which is having fire and gas keyword. So it's more likely you're going to survive the attack against these weapons or this type of weapons. And this triggers even if the attack is ignoring armor. The cloak of alamut is technically an upgrade for your cover bonus. Instead of -1 it's -2. The assassin dagger is technically the mandatory weapon for the assassin. Other than the critical keyword, it's giving flat -1 on the injury modifier. And if you make at least 1 blood marker, you can make a free dash action with the assassin, and this extra move not triggers the retreat and the free attack of the enemy with that. So it's very good if you want to get out of melee without any problem. I think the tech wimbird is mandatory maybe for the assassin, as it's making your melee attacks more worse for the enemy. For your captain, I think it's only worth it if you want to make the captain a melee one, because it's boosting technically your melee attacks as your enemy's melee attack become risky. And if they want to retreat from melee, first they need to make a risky roll, and if that's successful, then they can move out. So probably it's better with assassin, and then either alchemist or captain, depending on which one you want as a melee unit. The Murad Bombard is the basic bull ranged weapon. It's very similar to the artillery witch weapon, that it's making flat 3d6 damage, but instead of blast damage, like for the artillery witch, the Murad Bombard is downing every unit within 3 inch. So it's more like a damage and movement disruption weapon. So you're going to make less skill with it, but at least you're disturbing the opponent's movement. So it's plus-minus, kinda, but not bad. Also, main problem with the weapon, you need to hit the target. So maybe it's not going to do much during a game, but when it hits, it's most probably going to kill that unit. And the Titan Zulfikar, which is the melee weapon for the bull, and this one is giving +2 modifier flat for the injury roll. So -3 armor becomes technically -1, very good, and critical keyword. So I think for melee bull this is a mandatory choice. And of course the wind amulet, which I mentioned previously, giving flat 3 extra inch for the movement for 1 turn, and this one includes the dash as well, not just the normal movement. And as for glory items, we have the Damascus Armor, Kiliji, Masterwork, Jezil, and Sultanate Grand Cannon. The rest is a general glory item which can be found in every warband. And Sultanate specific ones, the Damascus Armor is giving an extra scar possibility for the unit, so it means during the campaign it's going to die for the 4th scar, not the 3rd, and the Impervious is technically ignoring the inner armor on the attack, which is again good, but the problem with the armor is that you cannot change it, so if you allocate it to one unit, that's unit wearing it for the entire campaign. The Kiliji is our upgraded melee weapon, it's giving +1 flat modifier for the injury roll, beside the critical keyword. The Masterwork Jezil is technically has a built-in chemical ammunition, as it has +1 for the roll, critical keyword, and the extra with the weapon is that when you want to shoot into melee, you don't need to roll whom you hit, because you can just ignore that rule. Simply you say you want to shoot the enemy, you shoot the enemy and that's it. But as an extra, the weapon can shoot, if you are lucky, for example 2 units, as the example says, if you let's say roll 12, you can hit another enemy unit within 5 inch, because between the success and your rolled result, the difference is 5. You always check the difference, and if you have an additional unit within that many inch, another injury roll. So it's very good to possibly killing 2 enemy units, probably only high likely, but it's a possibility. And the Sultanate Grand Cannon is our big gun for the bull, and it has +2 injury dice and ignore armor, so it's not doing 3d6 damage as the Murad Bombard, but having a better shooting as default. If the bull is losing the weapon, you lose the weapon entirely, and it's not really good because it's a very expensive weapon, 10 glory, and as an unstoppable object, it's technically you pushing the target you hit. So it can be good to push off an enemy off a cliff or a top of building or whatsoever. So yeah, that can create some fun situation. And the rest of the glory items are the same as for every other warband, so with the Sultanate for the campaign, I think the main candidates for you for promotion is either the main target, is either the Janissaries or the Brazen Bull. Janissaries because they can be quite expensive, and the Brazen Bull because it can be expensive, and you want technically both to be elite as soon as possible. A secondary option, depending on what you want to do or what type of enemies you're going against, either Sapper or Mercenaries, because who don't want, for example, an elite Scripture Guardian or Mamluk Faris. But as a fun option, if you want to go crazy, you can maybe promote an Azeb, I guess. I did it. So as a summary, I think the Sultanate is a very good generalist army, or army in general. Their biggest weakness is the lack of ignore armor option on weapons, as we have, or they have the least amount of weapon. So if you are going against armored warband, it's very difficult matchup, and you need to rely on good rolls and good tactic. But otherwise, I think it's a fun army, and just look at the little Azeb, how cute he is. Just look at him, you can't ignore it. So yeah, depending on which enemies you go against in the campaign, you can make a, let's say, kind of a Janissary spam, for example, or a lot of Azeb, kind of Sapper detachment, or using the Lions and Bull. So you have different options, and it's really up to how experimental you want to be, or, as I said, which enemies you're going against. So you have options, not always easy to use, but definitely it's a very good one. And they have a very interesting and different vibe compared to the other factions in Trench Crusade, as they have this mystical background for the assassins, and also the secrecy kinda for the House of Wisdom. So I think it's a very good mix, and I'm curious what kind of upgrades they're going to get in the future, because as I remember, I read somewhere that they're going to get something during this year. So we will see. Thank you. If you have any comment or feedback about your specific or favorite loadout, let us know. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next Subwarband video.